What happened to silence? Is it just me, or are movies just packed full with music and sounds and noises nowadays? As if the movie just did not believe in its script, or the acting, or the editing, or really anything within itself to convey the emotions of the scene. Like it has to hide behind the thundering booms and scary stabs and heroic whooshes and sad piano music. And it feels like something has changed. It feels like it did not used to be this way. Older movies and TV shows knew when to let the scene breathe, knew that the tension of a scene didn't need building tremolo violins to say, "Look how scary this is." I'm not saying all movies and TV shows are like this now, just that there is a noticeable increase when I go to the decrepit movie theater. So, let's talk about it. Diegetic and non-diegetic sound. These are the two categories of sound in a movie. Diegetic sound is sound that is actually in the world of the characters. Dialogue, a car horn, a cat meowing, the radio playing, etc. Non-diegetic sounds are sounds that are there for us, the viewers. This is your movie scores, your violin stabs, voiceover monologues. Both of these have their own subcategories, like music, sound effects, noises, ambience, talking, etc. There is only so much auditory real estate in a scene. Every choice to include one thing, exclude another, turn one thing up, another down, is a trade-off. To focus on one thing, you lose something else. And this is not a bug, it's a feature of auditory narrative. You emphasize the things that are important. Usually you want the diegetic sound to be natural and balanced, but sometimes that does not convey the right weight of what's happening. In real life, hitting a body has a very muffled sound. It's like a weak clap, very sibilant. So, in movies, they amp it up. Add some crunchy celery, some oomph and some material to give it that crunch and weight we like. In a fight scene, the punching takes a lot of auditory space, so we downplay other things like footsteps and clothes, which would otherwise make a lot of sound. It's always a trade-off. The problem with diegetic sound is that the second it feels off, the second it sounds like it was recorded in the wrong room, or the quality is different than other sounds, we hear it really easily, and it can take us out of the scene. Ever watched a movie where the dialogue suddenly goes from boom mic to recording booth mic, and you really notice it was done after the fact? Yeah, that's the type of problem you encounter with diegetic sound. It needs to feel at home in the space.
The mother's on sedatives. She's completely unable to deal.
The father was in Europe somewhere. They haven't reached him.
The little girl, Allie, she thinks it's all her fault.
Michel Chion called it synchresis. That moment where everything, audio and visual, just melts together to become believable. You know how you've never actually heard a spaceship make sound, but when you hear this, you fucking believe it. Without proper treatment, any and all small decision that puts a sound outside of what we expect takes us right out of the movie. I said earlier that you want diegetic sound to be natural and balanced, but you don't want this in the typical sense. The real world often lacks emphasis. Things you expect to be loud and impactful are often quick and almost silent. Drawing a sword? Less cool than you might expect. Poking someone with a knife? Surprisingly little sound. So you actually don't want it to be natural in the normal sense, you want to emphasize. Some things need to be unnatural to feel, well, natural. diegetic sound is seldom the problem in newer movies. The diegetic sound is very often fine. It just does not get enough room to breathe by the non-diegetic sound. When it comes to non-diegetic sound, this is already out of place. Like, there are no orchestra in this scene. There is no person talking here.
7 to the dwarf lords, great miners and craftsmen of the mountain halls.
There are no violins doing this stab. Non-diegetic sound is emphasis of emotions within scenes. It exists to underline or to build something else. Very seldom is non-diegetic sound the main focal point of the scene. Don't get me wrong. This scene fucking rocks. And it's all about this orchestral score. The scene would not be as effective without it. However, the problem lies in the scenes between the scenes. This works because it is allowed to breathe. It is all about dynamics. Again, remember, the auditory space can only fit so much noise before we can't take it anymore. The epic heroic stuff is much more impactful when these scenes came before.
Their pace is quickened. They must have caught our scent.
Non-diegetic sound should never overshadow the narrative point of the scene, unless for very specific narrative purposes. Having a piercing, high-pitched sound signify someone's mental deterioration is fine. You are breaking rules with purpose. That's the best way to do so. But it should never be put in just to be put in. Don't add sounds or noises or music just to add it. It needs to be there for a reason. And this is a good point to remember. The more you use an effect, the less effective it becomes. So if you keep using the sad piano music all the time, we're going to get tired of the fucking sad piano music. And then, when the scene that actually needs the sad piano music comes, it's going to feel used up. Also, by adding a bunch of non-diegetic sound to a scene, you're taking up valuable auditory real estate from other sounds that need that space. Sometimes you want your actors to barely get the word out of their mouth, as if they're so tired they just can't talk. And don't let sad piano music get in the way of that performance. You're going to have to boost it louder in the mix so that the audience can hear what is being said. And with that, you end up putting a performance that was dynamic and raw into being just as loud as everything else. Sound has added value. It adds something to the image. Modern cinema has a tendency to think that adding value is good in and of itself. Like a cake full of frosting. But that's not where sound shines in movies. It shines in its ability to amplify affordances, not make them redundant. Dynamics is the distances between two poles. Not Polish people. So dynamics within pacing means that some parts of the movie are slow-paced and some parts are high-paced. Dynamics within music means that some part of the music is really loud and in your face, while other parts are calm and low. Dynamics is important because without the calm and low, the loud and in your face is less loud and in your face. These things are relational. A tall man is only tall if the median of people is smaller than the man is. If everyone is 6'4", everyone is average height. Same goes for this action scene. And this sound effect. If everything is extreme, nothing is extreme. It is in this relationship between extremes that we find the balance that makes something impactful. If every scene in a horror movie has the violin stab, it won't really have an impact by the end. If every scene has epic, heroic music, it doesn't really feel epic and heroic anymore. If you watch the Saw movies, you know that they are overly grotesque. But it doesn't really have a lot of impact by the end, because the whole movie is grotesque. You get desensitized to this stuff. Dynamics is the bread and butter of narrative. Sure, you can fry every hair inside our ears with music to induce feeling, but doing so is the equivalent to eating chocolate every day. Yeah, it's still chocolate, but you'll get bored eventually. A little too, maybe. It is supposed to be the little treat that is the highlight of the weekend after eating potatoes and shit for a week. Imagine if The Lord of the Rings was just the battle scenes and nothing else. No White Shore speech, no ride out with me speech, no scenes with Frodo and Sam in betwixt. Just battle. I think most people will leave the theater pretty quickly. In music, games, and movies, there is this catharsis that happens when something has been building for a length of time. Build and release. We do not get happy if a character immediately gets what they want. They need to work hard, get knocked down, and in the end, barely make it out. That's how you build tension. When you release the tension, that's the satisfying moment of, fuck yes, we made it. And the same can be said for sound. For auditory catharsis to come, there needs to be a slow build that earns the release. And this is not some fringe trick, this is the core of a narrative. The build and release. Movies and TV need time to breathe. Both the watchers and the characters need time to digest the things that are going on. It is hard to take in everything when there is music and orchestral stabs and boom effects left, right, and center. Silence is a most subtle art form, because in the silence, every minute detail gains focus and weight. And we get to live in that focus, take in the feeling of the scene. Lingering shots of silence are very impactful because they add this uncomfortableness. Silence is this thing that is comfortable for about 3 seconds, yet heavily discomforting for 10. The suspense of this scene works much better because we are experiencing what the character is experiencing. A total dead silence. Something that should not be. Adding a scary violin or a creepy tremolo score would take us out of the character's experience. In this scene, the sharp sudden tones of piano only work because in between there is this awful silence. If a character is sneaking, you want silence. This creates room for the most subtle of breath and creaks in the performer's footsteps to come through. And they sound huge in comparison. The tension comes from how loud these sounds are in relation to the silence. Every breath becomes a possible giveaway. Every creak is death incarnate. It's terrifying. Especially with a good performance to book. Sometimes you don't want to emphasize a thing. In Hereditary, Ari Aster and his sound designers and editors did a banging good job using silence as a way to add this feeling of something being lost in a scene. Like they start a scene and it's dead silent, and you look around the room to see what is going on or if you missed something, and bang, you see the scary ass person standing naked against the wall. It works because you are not sure what type of scene it is. If there was scary ass music in it, I would know that I was supposed to be scared from minute 1. It's so much more effective without that. It becomes this nightmare where I'm constantly on edge. Is this going to be a scary moment? Or a moment of respite? The Fallout show is something I really dislike the use of non-diegetic sound in, at least the first season. I have plenty of other complaints about it, but one of my main problems was the sound. If you've ever played the Fallout games, you know that most of the game is kinda silent. Iron Sur's soundtrack is very minimal in its design, focusing on ambiance and slight shifts in tone. Sometimes being just wind, and then it swells a bit before dying down again. And you know what? It works very well. It is very isolating the first time you enter the Mojave or DC. Your eyes adjust, there is a swell, and then you're all alone. As you walk, you take in the nothingness of it all, and in the distance, some diegetic sound of an iBot playing propaganda music. I love it. It's great mood, wonderful stuff. Gives me time to take it all in. In the Fallout show, everything has a fucking boom effect, or some musical swelling, or epic ass music.
Mercy! Mercy, no!
That didn't work.
I felt no desolation at all. Lucy never seemed bothered, the music never seemed bothered, and in return, I didn't bother with season 2. And listen, I understand. The TV show is more of a 76 and 4 show than the earlier games, but still, I didn't buy it. It didn't feel desolate. It didn't give me the feeling of isolation that I wanted. And a large part of that was the constant music and noise. Again, nothing wrong with turning up the radio and blasting mutants to Radio New Vegas. However, that's not really what I was hoping for from the show. When it comes to music, sound and noise, they are referential. What that means is that every time a TV show or movie uses a sound effect, it becomes tied to that scene, that movie, and the surroundings of that movie or show. The Wilhelm scream is one of these sounds. In the beginning, it was a fun little Easter egg, now an overused thing that movie studios put in to sell us nostalgia. And this is a thing that is especially prominent for music. Songs get inherently tied to the movies they were used in. And then, when you hear them again, you're forced to think of their past use. You've probably seen other people do this, or done this yourself. You remember a song, but you can only think of the movie scene it's from, so you Google music from beginning of X, and then find it. This can work for or against the scene. Some music is so inherently tied to their use in the movie that just hearing a couple of seconds are going to send images and feelings from that scene into your head. It also goes for a lot of classical pieces of music as well. They get tied to movies or shows, then reused in new shows or movies, sometimes remixed and used again in different ways. They don't lose their prior textual ties. They may develop, they may be recontextualized as they are used in other things, but Singing in the Rain will always be tied to that Clockwork Orange scene. If done well, you can play off of this reference in ways that amplify the message of the scene, but if done poorly, it can damage the scene by reminding audiences of a thing that is emotionally incongruent to the emotion you want to have. And herein lies the problem. It often feels like music is just thrown in, because it feels like it fits, or the title fits nicely with the theme. That it is not added because it's an actually thought out emotional and textual element, as if silence couldn't have been just as much, if not more, of an amplifying element. Or just do a quick search to see what other media this has been used in. That also works. Contradictory use of music is when the emotion of the music is opposite to the emotion of the scene. This can be used as a comedic effect. Think of overly dramatic music in a comedy movie. Or to contrast the horrors of what is happening in a scene by playing a happy song. Think of Singing in the Rain. But doing it too many times risks lessening the effect of it. You're signifying two different emotions within the scene, and this is jarring. Doing this is also never without cost. Since we are explicitly breaking the congruence between sound and image, it will most likely break immersion. When you break synchrosis on purpose with non-diegetic music, that's something you do explicitly for the audience. The malalignment of emotion is a thing the movie does for us, to make us reanalyze what is going on, to make us recontextualize the scene. But if you just do it over and over again, this becomes tedious. It's transgressive, sure, but the effect of being transgressive only works if it's actually transgressive. And transgressiveness is defined by going outside of normalcy. If you do the cheerful 60s pop music with grotesque visuals 5 times, it's no longer transgressive.
I try to make...
You need to be careful, because what you signify by doing this can vary. Do you want to glamorize violence, or do you want to critique violence? And no one likes a movie that keeps turning to the audience to say the point out loud.
War never changes.
It's all very fatiguing. It's at the point where when I watch modern Hollywood movies, I don't have enough emotional currency to give a fuck. When every scene is accompanied by music and loud sound effects, I get annoyed. I feel desensitized. It's emotional inflation. And it is tiring. I feel tired after watching movies now. Everything is so fast-paced and loud and quick, as if they wanted to make the film equivalent of a premature ejaculation. It is the same feeling I get with the shorts problem. Everything has become short form. Everything is loud and in your face. Everything wants your attention. Distilled algorithmic black tar heroin for the sake of keeping us glued to the screen. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Vine, whatever. It's all becoming the same injection at the same injection site. Just trying desperately to keep you clicking one more video so that they can show you an ad and take your data. And it feels like modern movies have taken a page out of this book. Why has silence become culturally intolerable? And you know what? I'm guilty of it too. I use background music in my videos, because that's what I'm supposed to do. I make a thumbnail, give it big red letters, pointy arrow, at least one human face, big overblown emotions. People won't click if I don't. And it all just reeks of insecurity. And this is the crux of my problem with this type of filmmaking. It feels heavily insecure, as if it's not interesting enough without the music or the booms or the whooshes to keep our attention with its story and characters. So it aims to add shallow stuff and fluff to every single scene so we don't look away, like dangling keys in front of an infant, or worse, giving it an iPad and letting it endlessly surf the algorithmic nightmare. An endless deluge of unrefined nothingness with nothing to say and nothing to add to an already tepid corpus of watered out content. Is this what it takes to make a movie in 2026? The auditory equivalent of Subway Surfers? As if the second two characters talk with no other sound, we walk away? It feels like with the rise of the movies by committee era, where all movies are hauled in front of the lowest common denominators, endlessly rewritten by hundreds of writers, tested and retested by focus groups of people who don't care, or don't care to care. It has just become the way to make movies that keep people paying for the movie ticket. Music has the ability to affect us. It can alter moods and induce feelings in us. It is a hell of a powerful tool, but everything in moderation. Just because the button gives you dopamine does not mean you should press it to your heart's content. It'll burn out your receptors and leave you depressed. Studios don't trust in ideas or actors or scripts anymore. They know they can use music and sound to incite what they want from people who don't want to think. It's a manual. If you turn to scene 4, there is the sad piano music. Now it's time to be sad. It's epistemic insecurity. They don't trust in us as viewers to interpret the emotions of the scene. And herein lies another problem. A scene may have more complicated feelings than sadness. There might be more contradictory feelings that need to be ironed out. But when the sad piano music comes, we know, okay, this is supposed to be sad. To me, it has the same worth of a stranger saying they love me. It's not earned. It takes away from the performance and the script, and it has a real brotherly link to the loudness wars. This idea that making things louder and more compressed was good, even though it lessened dynamic range, audio fidelity, and induced listener fatigue. It's a wall of sound. It peaks in clips. It destroys the finer details of the performance. And it does so just because it believes it is better. We are losing the nuance in the music. On Death Magnetic, the distortion in clipping that was heard from the snares alone made people think there was something wrong with the CDs they had bought. And you know what? There was. It sounded like blown out shit. Anyways, whatever. Go watch some A24 movies and other smaller studios with directors that have real vision and real scripts and real ideas. I'm fucking out.